Pittsburgh Steelers fans, what's going on? This is Jeff Hartman, co-editor of BehindTheSteelCurtain.com, and for the second straight week, it's just two. There's just two. Last week, Dave was on sabbatical. I'm not sure what he was doing on sabbatical, but he's back, and now Brian Anthony Davis is on sabbatical. I don't know when I get my sabbatical. Dave, welcome to the show. How's it going?
It's going all right. If we would have started this late last week, I'd have been here for the show. But that didn't happen, and we honestly, did I want to go on by myself at 8:45-ish, or did I want to at least have someone else on the air and wait for Jeff? So I'm like, let's do this. It's late. We don't have to listen to Brian talk as much. So we might not have to have quite as long of a show. So
that's right. Yeah.
But no, we do miss Brian. We miss him. Absolutely. I wish he was here.
Absolutely. And you know, if the person that schedules my softball games should just be taken out and beaten to a pulp. I don't know. That's just what I'm saying.
Well, it's very simple because, you know, when you get down to it, when someone already says, "Oh, don't schedule me for Tuesdays because I have to do my locker room for my Let's Ride," I don't have any other options. I have Tuesday or Thursday.
Wednesdays work fine.
Well, not all teams can play on Wednesdays, and the teams you were playing tonight, they couldn't.
And anyways, if you haven't figured it out yet, Dave's the one that schedules my softball games. Okay, let's get on with it. I do want to make an announcement that as of this being recorded, which is live Thursday on our YouTube channel, you can follow us on YouTube, search BTSC Steelers Radio, subscribe, and like the shows. We appreciate it. We are law dog days away from week one. That's right. Lawrence Timmons, 94 days. Have you ever seen anyone puke on the football field as much as Lawrence Timmons did in his time in Pittsburgh? I mean, he threw up all the time. I put a GIF of this on Twitter, and I had people responding with other GIFs of different games of him throwing up on the field. He puked a ton, Dave. I've never seen a player do it that many times.
Well, it's so funny because I only remember watching it live and noticing it one main time.
In Miami.
So every time I'd see it, I'd be like, "Oh yeah." And then I'm like, oh, maybe that wasn't the same time. So yeah, so I guess I guess so. But I've seen it so many different times. I'm like, is this all from one game or is this from different games?
I know the Miami.
It was
Miami
week one
game was
one year. I remember that. So because I remember thinking, oh well, he's not in condition yet. It's the first week of the season. So.
Well, there was also I remember the Miami game. It was really hot.
Yeah.
The Dolphins made the Steelers wear black. He's in the end zone. That's the one that I had shared. Yeah. And he's down on a knee and he's just all this water, just puke. Anyways, Lawrence Timmons, I think, is one of the most underrated players in the Mike Tomlin era. And he was his first draft pick. We know that. I thought he was really good. And, you know, no one talks about him. Everyone talks about linebackers. They talk about James Ferrier. And some modern fans will talk about Vince Williams or Devin. No one talks about Lawrence Timmons. It was like a forgotten guy. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, I personally thought that he was a extremely more than solid player for the Steelers. And yeah, you're right. You talk about that with the Mike Tomlin draft pick and everything else. I thought he did a fantastic job, but as we know, when a lot of times with people with that position and some other positions, that whenever Father Time hits you, it hits you pretty hard. So,
yeah,
you know, it doesn't take long for someone to find out that their best days are behind him. But his best days in Pittsburgh were really good days. They really were.
They were really good. Absolutely. Let's talk about some news that was happening with the Pittsburgh Steelers this week. OTAs are a wrap. All three phases are now completed. The Steelers were supposed to have 4 workouts this week. I think they did have one on Monday, but it wasn't a practice. And then Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, that's it. Phase 3 is done. The next step is minicamp. Dave, I want to ask you, was there anything? And if so, what was it? Was anything surprise you from OTAs at all?
It's funny. I'm curious if they intentionally put the running backs right in front of the media because Najee Harris was the first round pick, or if that just happened to work out that way. But there seemed to be an awful lot of Najee, but that's what you expect whenever you have a first round pick. Anything that jumped out at me was how, I don't know if they got in trouble with sharing so much, but man, oh man, as the week went on, there was next to nothing of reports coming out from OTA.
I think I know what did it. I think I know it. There was a video. I'll just say a writer at the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette that narrows it down. He shared a video of them working on fake handoff, shovel pass forward. That's a no-no. I do know from my time away from behind the steel curtain a year ago, you are given stipulations on what you can and cannot do at practice. Individual workouts are the only thing you can share. And that was not an individual work. I guarantee you that might have been said. Anyways, so, okay, go ahead.
That makes sense. That really makes sense.
I'll tell you what, for me, attendance was a surprise.
Yeah.
But people forget that right before OTA started, that was when the Steelers, as a part of the NFLPA, and Cam Hayward was very vocal about why in the world are we doing this? They still wanted virtual. The Steelers were going to not attend any voluntary workouts. And then I remember saying in our Slack channel, Cam won't be there. He's the NFLPA rep for the Steelers. There's no way he's going to go against the union. And then everyone's there. Cam's there.
He spoke the first day. He was, and I think that was planned.
Yeah,
that was planned.
I think so too. Yeah. He said that they gave the Steelers organization, I think from Art Rooney down, they met, they talked about ways to, I guess, to kind of ease players into it. Whatever they did, whatever they changed, Cam was on board with it. The players on the team were on board with it. I thought they had great attendance. I was surprised. I wasn't expecting that many. What about any disappointments? Anything, Dave, that disappointed you from OTAs?
I mean, my expectations were very low. Just honestly, to see anything from OTAs to me is a bonus. So the only way I would have been disappointed was to see 0 pictures, 0 videos, and zero players showing up would have disappointed me. So honestly, I can say I'm not disappointed in it, just because it happened. Didn't happen last year. It happened this year.
That's a good point. I put this question out on Twitter on my personal page, and it was just a poll that said, if a player doesn't show up at OTAs, how do you react? Are you saying, man, it's voluntary, doesn't matter? Do you think, I wish they were there? Or do you say, man, it's football in shorts? And I think the majority of people, there was only like 150 some people that voted, said that they didn't care. It's voluntary. I kind of care. I'm going to be honest. I wish TJ Watt would have at least shown up for a week. He didn't show up at all that I saw. I didn't see it.
Yeah, I couldn't.
Joe Hayden.
I can neither confirm nor deny that accusation.
Exactly. I didn't see Joe Hayden there at all. Those are the two. David DeCastro didn't. I mean, my gosh. I'm thinking about David DeCastro. The offensive line is so green this year. Everyone is in a different spot, in a different position. You think you would show up? Like I understand it's voluntary, and I think it was, who was the player that said they've been around, they don't need to show up. One of the players in the past 3 weeks that during this phase of OTAs did an interview, and they asked about the veterans, and he said, they've been doing it a long time. And they said TJ's been doing it a long time. And TJ's still in his rookie contract. He hasn't been doing it that long. I mean, my gosh. And again, just to show up. But at the same time, there's a positive to that. You're giving players like Alex Highsmith a lot of repetitions. Quincy Roche was going to be getting a lot of repetitions with TJ Watt out. That's going to be beneficial to them. But I got to be honest, that's a little disappointing. I'm just being honest. I wish some of those guys would have just shown up for a little bit, but it is what it is.
I'll say what would be more disappointing with that, which we'll probably never know, or who knows, maybe we will, is did these guys communicate with the team at all? Did they communicate with the coaches to say, hey, I'm going to be there, I'm not going to be there, I have this going on? Or was it just, I wonder if TJ is going to show up today? Nope, he's not here. That's the difference. And we'll probably never know that. So that I know what you mean. It's sometimes it's an attitude, it's a mentality about, hey, let's get this done together. So I understand what you're saying.
I know that Cam Hayward said that Mike Tomlin told him, the team and him being the rep, like, look, I just want to see you all. Like, that's what he said. I just want to see you all. I want to see what kind of conditioning you're in. And I think he was basically saying, I'm not going to push you guys to the brink here. I just want to make sure we see you guys, get you in the facility. I guarantee you they were in contact with Joe Hayden and TJ Watt and David DeCastro and anyone else that might have missed time. But go ahead, Dave.
I have a question for you then, because I don't know if you saw this report or not, but several NFL teams have canceled their mandatory minicamp because they said they got everything done they needed to in OTAs because players showed up. Any chance if all those guys would have shown up for at least 1 week that the Steelers would have done that?
I don't think there's any chance. Mike Tomlin's not going to turn down an opportunity to get his team on the field together and work. And especially, like I mentioned, the offensive line.
Yeah.
I mean, if you were to you said if DeCastro would have shown up, would he have done it? I think he still would have had minicamp. He might have altered it a little bit, but I think he still has minicamp, which is coming up. What are the dates on that? I forget. I think it's the 15th.
It's Tuesday.
15th to the 17th, I think.
Yeah.
3 days. Yeah.
Yeah. Tuesday to Thursday.
And then, thankfully, Dave did some homework, and he found out that the Steelers will be reporting to training camp on, is it the 21st of July?
The 21st is the date set by the NFL that they can report.
Got it.
So the Steelers have not announced if that's what they're doing or not. If they don't, you're kind of like, well, why not? I mean, I understand it might be a longer minicamp because of the Hall of Fame game, but that's what both them and the Cowboys are allowed to report.
Yeah. No, you're right.
Yeah.
And we still don't know. We do know that minicamp is going to be at Heinz Field. The Steelers made that announcement. That does not mean fans are going to be able to be there or anything. They're just going to hold it at Heinz Field, not at the facility.
With training camp last year.
Exactly. We haven't heard about training camp yet. And the Green Bay Packers on Thursday, they went to Twitter and said that they're expecting a full house this season, and they're going to be taking their show on the road for training camp, and there's going to be fans there. I saw that. I don't know if you saw that, Dave.
I did.
When I saw that, I'm thinking the Steelers have to follow suit. I mean, unless the state of Pennsylvania or something has some type of restrictions, I mean, you would think that they should be announcing after minicamp, they should be announcing the dates of training camp soon.
You would think, because you also have to remember this was Green Bay's minicamp week because of when they started their stuff. So basically they announced it today, which was at the end of minicamp. So hopefully at the end of minicamp, we get the same thing from the Steelers.
If you were a betting man, would you think that they would be in Latrobe with fans this summer?
Yes.
Good. I think so.
And I am a betting man, but I'm not, maybe not in this case.
I don't know if you can actually get, what's up with your camera there?
Yeah. I don't know. It obviously got foggy. I probably spit on it.
Like a Bill Cowher spittle. Yeah. All right. Let's get to the main topic of today's show. And it's something that, my Let's Ride for Friday morning is all about Mason Rudolph. And I don't want to hear people say, well, I'm not listening to that. Just let's take a listen. And I was talking about the future, thinking about the future of the quarterback position. And all of a sudden it's like hit me like a ton of bricks. Why do we care so much right now about the future of the quarterback position? I mean, this has seriously been an ongoing debate. I was speaking with a fellow softball player that Dave knows that is a fan of the website as I was leaving the fields today, and he's talking about things, and he said, I don't understand why people he said, it seems like people are rooting against Dwayne Haskins just because he's Dwayne Haskins and he went to Ohio State. And I said, I agree with you 100%. I said, it doesn't make any sense to me either. And then it also hit me that I don't know why anyone cares right now. If Dwayne Haskins plays this year, the Steelers are in trouble because that would mean that Ben Roethlisberger and Mason Rudolph are both hurt. So, because I don't see Dwayne Haskins winning the number 2 job. But Dave, do you care is the first question about the future of the quarterback position right now?
Yes, I do.
Okay,
but not more than what I care.
yourself.
But not more than I care about the 2021 season. I mean, it's nice to know. I mean, if the Steelers had nobody under contract, I mean, I'm really glad they did the 1-year extension with Rudolph, because if they'd have nobody under contract, you're like, oh my goodness, what's going to happen next year? I could understand thinking about it some, but I think we're putting way too much emphasis on it right now because there is so much that can happen through this season, and particularly this preseason, to help give an idea of what's going to happen in that regard. It's funny because you say that with Dwayne Haskins, and you say about how many people are so down on him. I ask the opposite. I'm like, why are there so many people so high on him as well? I think the real answer should be in the middle. You know what I'm saying? Because, he was a first-round draft pick. No, he has not looked well in the NFL so far. Yes, he has potential. That's why it should be somewhere in the middle. If it works out, great. If it doesn't, oh well. And like you say, that is a great thing to be. Isn't it much better if you're going to have someone like that in the mix? Not saying that he's going to be in the mix for sure or not for 2022. But isn't it much better to have that 2021? How many people were saying, oh, the Steelers should have drafted their quarterback for the future so they could sit for a year and understand the system? Well, granted, he's been in the NFL 2 years, but guess what Dwayne Haskins gets to do this year? If he wants to have a shot at showing that he can be a starting quarterback again, he gets a year in the system. Give Mason, and you shouldn't even, who knows, like you said about the backup position, that you're not banking on him winning that, but that's all going to play itself out eventually. That is really 2022's problem. You're right. We need to focus on 2021 and not who's going to be the next guy after Ben. It's who's coming in off the bench for Ben if it has to happen.
I know that in 2018, when Mason Rudolph was drafted in the 3rd round and the Steelers made a small little trade to move up in front of Cincinnati and take him, you and I, Dave, we were very excited. I
wouldn't have been upset if they would have drafted him in the 1st round. I would not have been upset.
Anyways, that's fine.
No,
I can't say I agree.
That's what I'm saying.
And so I was pretty excited. And I guess, and I say this in my podcast on Friday morning, is it was the first time I felt that the Steelers drafted maybe, not a guarantee, maybe the next guy. You think about all the quarterbacks that had been behind Roethlisberger in his career, whether it's Charlie Batch, Byron Leftwich, Brian St. Pierre, Dennis Dixon, Michael Vick, I could Landry Jones. I could go on Devlin Hodges. None of them ever felt like, wow, this guy could be the next guy. Mason Rudolph kind of felt like that. But the one thing that people have to remember is that he was a 3rd round pick. And I think that the one thing that's really screwed with people the most is Kevin Colbert's comment that he made, about we had a 1st round grade on him. Because the moment he said that, people then said, well, he should be playing like a 1st round pick. He's not a 1st round pick. He's a 3rd round pick. So I guess for me, I was so excited, and I know Dave shared some of that excitement. And I was so let down in 2019 when he didn't play well. I told myself, just enjoy Ben while you have Ben. I'd completely changed. There was a part of me that when Ben Roethlisberger got hurt in 2019, I'm going to be really candid here. There was a part of me deep down inside that said, well, now we're going to get to see something. Like, we're going to get to see what life without Ben's like. I didn't like it. I didn't like it. So I don't know. And you have the question marks around some of these players. Like if we're talking about Mason Rudolph in particular, he didn't have a quarterbacks coach in 2018 or 2019. He played 0 snaps in 2018. You talk about it all the time.
He didn't even dress.
Yeah, you talk about like practice reps. Yeah. He was getting none. If he was getting any, it was scout team, like none. And so in 2019, he gets thrust into the spotlight. Randy Fichtner is the offensive coordinator. Let's not forget that mess. And I mean, my goodness, I thought he made some strides. And think about the year that he had. The concussion when Earl Thomas hits him in Baltimore, in Pittsburgh versus Baltimore. Then the whole Myles Garrett situation. And then to cap it off, to put a cherry on top of this crap Sunday, is the shoulder injury that ends up ending his season, and he has to have surgery on it in the offseason. I mean, like, that's crazy. And
all because Marquise Pouncey got hurt.
Yeah. BJ
Finney comes in, steps on his foot, and boom.
And then, you have this enigma that I feel like Mason Rudolph is. Horrible 2019. He'd probably be the first person to tell you. But in 2020, he doesn't play other than garbage time. He plays week 17. The only other time he plays is in the Dallas game. At the end of the first half, Ben's going to the locker room. I think there was a turnover. And all of a sudden, he goes in there, doesn't do anything, and then Ben comes out after the second half. But I guess 2020, week 17, is that one game enough for you to be a little bit confident in Mason Rudolph moving forward, Dave? Or you still think like, I can't get 2019 out of my head?
No, it gives me some confidence. I don't think it's enough of a sample size to give you overconfidence, but you definitely saw an improved player who played an entire game, at least from what you saw the year before. And like you said, Guy had Randy Fichtner as his quarterback coach, who was already in over his head as the offensive coordinator. He wasn't a good enough coordinator to just be to stay on as coordinator, let alone have another job with it.
Yeah.
That did not work. It did not work. And you take Mason Rudolph, who was in street clothes every single game his rookie year. He did not dress. Then you come in the next year, and he's finally supposed to be the guy that, gets the backup reps, gets a little bit more work, then can actually finally start progressing. And he gets thrown in week 2. I mean, think about that. Last year was really the year he was supposed to have the year before, where he was pretty much just the backup the whole time, got to come in and do week 17. I mean, if we just took 2019 out of the equation altogether, how would you feel? Really
wouldn't know much. Yeah, I mean,
you wouldn't know much, but you wouldn't be completely down on everything. And I'm even going to argue the counterpoint that I actually did in an article. It was actually a couple of years ago, I think, that I think Steelers fans would give a little bit more grace to Mason Rudolph and his development if he would have been a first-round pick. They would have thought of,
I don't know.
Absolutely, because they're like, well, sometimes, it was late first round. We did put the first-round pick with him, but, sometimes you just got to give him a little bit to get going. Honestly, just even before he played in 2019, do you know how many people? And when I made this is before he played a snap. This was after his rookie year. I said, everyone's like, oh, well, Rudolph's not the answer. He didn't even dress his rookie year. Yeah. They're like, he's not the answer because he was a third-round pick. That was a narrative I saw all over the place. So I'm like, okay, so if he would have been a first-round pick and still didn't play at all, you would feel completely different about it. And I always said, if you would have taken him and Terrell Edmunds and swap their picks, how differently would Steelers Nation look at both of them? A ton. Completely different, you know, but that's what the draft does.
When you put it that way, it makes sense for sure. All right. You know what? We're close to the midway point here. I want to take a quick break. I have a question for you about Mason Rudolph when we come out of the break. It's about what happened this past offseason. We'll talk about that. If you're on the audio side, head over to part 2. If you are here live on YouTube or on Facebook, stay here. We're not going anywhere. Be right back. All right, Pittsburgh Steelers fans, welcome back to the second segment of the Steelers preview. It's just myself and Dave Schofield, both co-editors of BehindTheSteelCurtain.com. I always say we want to make sure that BehindTheSteelCurtain.com is your one-stop shop for all things Pittsburgh Steelers. We have all sorts of content for you. Film room breakdowns, predictions, commentary, everything you can think of. Breaking news, you got it. And if you're listening to us on a podcast, maybe you just stumbled upon it, make sure you find us wherever you get your podcasts. Apple Podcasts, Google Play, iTunes, Spotify, doesn't matter. Subscribe, follow, do whatever you have to do. And as I said in part 1, YouTube, go to youtube.com, search BTSC Steelers Radio. Subscribe to the channel, like the videos. It all helps. We appreciate you. All right, so we're talking about quarterbacks here. And the infatuation, I feel like that is the correct term to use. The infatuation Steeler Nation has with trying to figure out who is the next quarterback when Ben Roethlisberger leaves. Now, this past offseason, the Steelers made a decision that they gave Mason Rudolph, you mentioned this in part 1, Dave, a 1-year extension on his contract. So if they had a 1-year extension on his contract, what does that tell you? When they did that, what does that tell you? Because he is the only quarterback currently under contract for the 2022 season. Now, Dwayne Haskins is a restricted free agent. They can still bring him back rather easily. There's the void years with Roethlisberger. But Dave, when they gave Mason that contract, what did that tell you?
That told me they were covering themselves to make sure they had someone, at least they needed at least one option moving forward. And that, to me, it tells me that they feel that he was even, let's just say this, like you've said this many times, what if Ben Roethlisberger comes back? What if this is not his last year? Okay. Then let's hold on. That was But what
Okay,
I understand. What I was going to say with that is they even give Mason Rudolph the money that they feel he would even deserve as a backup, but yet they didn't break the bank to say you're definitely going to be our starter, but then they at least have an option. It's about options.
Well, that was my next question was what if you know the contract situation so much better than I do? Explain to me and to our listeners, if Roethlisberger decides I'm coming back, I still feel like I have football left, regardless of how this season ends. He decides he wants to play next year. What happens with the void year in his contract? How does that work?
Okay, well, he has 4 void years.
Yes.
And if Roethlisberger doesn't come back, all the money from those 4 void years comes due next year as the cap hit. It will be $10.34 million, which when you think about it, that's way better than what was it going to be? Was it 19 or 19.5? I think it was 19. It would have been this year, or 19 and a half. I've forgotten about it because he's got a new deal. It is my understanding. I'm just going to say this. This is my understanding. I've tried to dive into this with the CBA. I've tried to look this up. There's not a lot of times where players have void years and then they come back. So I'm still trying to get a definitive answer. But my understanding is, let's say Ben comes back for 1 more year. That prorated bonus of the void year, it doesn't all come due, but the next year's would come due. Because like right now it's spread out to like $2.585 million. I'm looking at it. That's how I can spout off all those numbers, just so you know. Over those 4 years. I'm pretty sure if he comes back with a new contract, that doesn't go away, that those would continue in there. And the next year that he doesn't play, it would come due. That is my understanding of it. Someone could re-educate me on that and show me how that is not the case, and I would understand. But that is from what I've been able to find, that's the best answer I can come up with.
Okay.
I hope that's good enough for you.
No, it is. It makes sense. And it's just the formality of it all is what I was curious about. But going back to Mason Rudolph, I think that the Steelers wanted to guarantee, like you said, that they had someone in the system. But let's talk about Dwayne Haskins for a little bit. Mm-hmm. Or maybe let's stop for a sec. Do we even talk about Joshua Dobbs? Or is Joshua Dobbs, Felicia, our girl Felicia in the live chat, she is on the Joshua Dobbs train. She thinks that he fits Matt Canada's offense. I want to give her a shout out. She said that. But still, do we talk about Joshua Dobbs here at all? Is he even worth the conversation, or is he just a camp arm now?
Jeff, Joshua Dobbs is who they have if Dwayne Haskins isn't going to be the best version of what he can be, if you understand what I mean. Remember, you and I did our predicted 53-man roster. I had Dobbs as the number 3.
I did not.
You had Haskins.
Yes.
So what I'm saying is, until Dwayne Haskins comes in and shows that he is a better option, I still give the advantage to Dobbs. Dobbs doesn't have to show anything better. He just has to show that he's the player that they know he is, if you know what I'm saying. And then Haskins has to show that he's better than that. Does that make sense?
It does.
Okay.
It does.
I love Josh Dobbs. He's a rocket scientist. Why would I not love him?
But Jeffrey Benedict is in the live chat causing a ruckus as he always does.
Yeah.
And that's the wrong
That's
one.
not the right one. Come on, Jeff.
Hold on.
You're better than that.
Trying to get him.
Yeah, it's up. Paxton Lynch.
There's a lot of people that say that Dwayne Haskins is just Paxton Lynch 2.0.
Yeah.
I don't know if I buy that. I don't know if I believe that. I have high hopes for Dwayne Haskins, and it has nothing to do with Ben Roethlisberger's car wash quote, which for some reason people freaked out about. And I had someone on my live locker room podcast who said, "Well, yeah, the ball didn't get wet because he missed the windows, like he missed the doors." And I was like, "Is he that inaccurate of a thrower? I don't think so."
I think you said the right thing when it comes to Haskins. Is he can look great now. But how's he going to look when he's got 3 guys coming at him and he's got to step up and read the defense and make the throw? I mean, he's out there with no pass rush and no defenders throwing to wide open receivers.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, granted, that's how you have to start. That's how you get your timing down, and that's how you figure stuff up. But I mean, that's just step 1. We can't completely evaluate on step 1. Get him to step 4. Okay, where NFL action, having to get it done. So there's a lot of, I can't remember what podcast it was where Jeffrey Benedict said, then there was Hodges, who he wasn't a step one guy. He did not look impressive that way, but you put him under pressure, under fire, and he would rise above. He was one of those, step up in a game kind of players. So that's what you want to see. Do you have someone that's going to rise above their practice level in game time, or are you going to have someone that's going to crumble under the literally pass pressure?
Yeah.
So.
I mean, I'm excited, and I did an entire article on this. I did an entire podcast on this. I am excited for this preseason. Yeah, I said it. I believe it. I am excited. I think fans should be excited about the preseason. We were deprived of that last year, and I loved how Chase Claypool, when he spoke with the media during OTAs, said how he was really happy that the rookies got this time, because he didn't get this time last year. Nope. And he talked about how when he showed up, he didn't know anyone. He felt awkward asking Ben questions because he had no rapport with him. I mean, everything was virtual. I'm a school teacher. I know how weird it is when we finally got back into the school building and I'm meeting some students for the very first time in person. And you're like, well, you were just a little dot on a screen. I'd have never seen you before. It's probably the same way for these athletes. So I think, this preseason is going to be telling. Mason Rudolph did not have a preseason last year to show if he had really gotten better. It wasn't until week 17. Week 17 is when obviously we got to see, there was a little bit of maturation. There is a little bit of improvement. I'm excited. Are you excited for the preseason, Dave?
I'm really excited for the preseason. Actually, when I was the guest host, I guess you would say, last night on the Steelers Curtain Call, where I was filling in for Michael Beck after he filled in for me on Tuesday. If you didn't check out those shows, make sure you go back and check out
for sure
those. But you got to be ready for Jeffrey and I, because we were ready to talk. We went over a little bit. So, but one of the things we were talking about is how much we can't wait for the preseason. And I said something that Jeffrey said has never been said before. And I said, I'm excited to watch that defense get out there and watch Q from the U and Cassius Marsh lining up at outside linebackers to see what they can do. And he says, no one in history has ever said they're excited to see Cassius Marsh on at outside linebacker.
I hope that you at least called him the
Pokemon King. I did it. I forgot about it. I forgot the nickname.
Oh my gosh. So there's just so many talking points. Like Felicia in the live chat says, okay, Jeff, during the Hall of Fame game in August, do you feel that Ben's going to play all 4 quarters? No. Who do you think will
Ben's not going to take a snap in that game? No.
Maybe he will. Maybe he'll play a series. I don't know. You wouldn't think so. You wouldn't think with 4 games that they would go off their typical script for the preseason. And that normally was, if Ben even dresses, it's a series and then get off the field.
Off the field. Maybe 2. Yeah.
All right. Well, hey,
but not in that game. Not in that game.
Yeah,
I don't see him in that game. Honestly, I would not be shocked if we don't even see Rudolph in that game. Wouldn't shock me.
No,
it would not shock me. So,
but you do need to see him. Maybe not in that game, but you do need to see him. I would start Mason in that game, the Dallas Cowboys Hall of Fame game. I would start Mason, give him a couple series, couple drives, and then as you start taking some of the players out, now I want to see who goes in next. Is it Dobbs or is it Haskins? And how are they going to handle it? There's just so many talking points.
You know what you want to do. Hold on. I was looking it up. What you ultimately want to do is you want to, in that Hall of Fame game. Oh, shoot. I can't get it to come up. Come on.
Baby. You
can do it. I seriously would like to see Dwayne Haskins start that game, because believe it or not, in his time in Washington, he never played against the Cowboys.
Oh, that's interesting. I don't know why I would even think about that.
Yeah, because in his 2 years there, he was not the starter. In his rookie year, it was the Cowboys was in week 2, and then the Cowboys was week 17, and he didn't play in that game. And then they played the Cowboys in their 2 game twice in the middle of the season last year when he wasn't the quarterback. Because remember, he was at the beginning, and then I don't know, kind of towards the end.
Yeah.
Yeah. Before that,
yeah.
all went down at the very, very end.
Right.
Yeah.
Now I'm excited for the preseason. And Joshua, I think it's Petrick maybe, says, besides Najee, what rookie are you looking forward to seeing the most in the preseason? Since we're talking about the preseason, might as well ask the question. What are you thinking, Dave?
Oh, that's obvious. That's Kendrick Green. Forget besides Najee. I want to see that's my number one, because you've got to play him a good bit in the preseason. He's a rookie. And right now he's not your guy to start. And the reason I'm looking for him is I still don't think I want to see him start week 1. I really do. But I don't think he will unless he pulls a Marquise Pouncey that just goes to show you can't hold me back. You've got to put me out there. I'm by far your best option. So could that be the case? It could be. Am I putting that expectation on him? I don't want to, but I still want to tune in to see if it's a possibility, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I mean, when you think about the offensive line, they're going to have almost everybody. They're going to have to play a little bit in that game. Zach Banner, Chukes Okorafor on the left side, Kendrick Green, like you mentioned. And I don't think Kendrick Green will start at center at all. But any other players other than Kendrick Green that you're excited to see?
Oh, got to know what kind of depth you have at outside linebacker. Got to look for Q from the U. And, of course, Najee. But I don't know that they're going to run him to death too much in the preseason. But I do think you'll see – I don't think they're going to hold him out unless he's injured or something. Then I don't think they're going to hold him out of the Hall of Fame game. I think they'll at least give him a little bit there.
How vanilla do you think that offense is going to look in the preseason?
Oh, that's the only thing. We're not going to get a true judge of – you know what we might see? We might see the shovel passes. They already ruined that one.
Yeah.
Everyone's seen that. Maybe we'll see that play, but no. It's
you know who they're shoveling it to?
Derek Watt, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Faking. Well, it's an option play. Because if you watch the clip again,
it is.
They had a coach that was basically being the outside linebacker or edge rusher, and the quarterback had to read the edge rusher, whether to pitch it, sweep, or inside shovel. I've seen enough of the inside shovel in recent years. I don't know if I want to see that be reincarnated. So, all right. We talked a lot about quarterbacks. I did put a comment in the both on Facebook and on YouTube that if anyone has a question for the show, we have some time. We haven't done a Q&A section for this show in a long time.
No.
So we'll see if we get a couple questions. Here we go. Joseph Brown says, question for the show. Name 3 NFL, and I missed it. There we go. 3 NFL starting quarterbacks you believe Mason can unseat today. 3 starting quarterbacks that he could unseat. So you're saying who are 3 quarterbacks currently starting in the NFL right now that Mason Rudolph is better than? I'll have to think about that.
Do you want me to go first?
Go for it, Dave. You know one.
I don't know if I can give it. Right now, I would say Jalen Hurts.
Okay, I agree. I'll go with that one. Maybe Sam Darnold in Carolina.
Yeah.
I'm not sold on him, really. What has he proven? That he's proven to be almost the same guy.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'll say this. People will laugh, but he's been so hurt, banged up. He's not who he used to be. Cam Newton's awful anymore. And if Cam Newton's not the quarterback and they go with Mac Jones.
That was going to be my answer. Whoever's in New England.
Cam Newton can't throw the ball 20 yards. His throwing motion is so messed up after a shoulder injury. The ball seems to always skip on the ground. It's a crying shame to see what's happened to the guy. My gosh. So let's get to Dave Shipley. He gave us $5. Thank you for the tip, Dave. We appreciate it. He said, hey, guys, looking forward to inside linebacker and punter. That's right, big press, Presley Harvin. I don't like Brian's Elvis thing. I don't know why. Yeah, I gave up Frothy Muth. He said he didn't like it, so I was like, yeah, it's probably not my best. So I went, but
everyone's going with Q from the U, aren't they?
Yeah, that's great. I like that. I like it. If he could actually show up, we could make that a shirt. I like that, but I go with big press because big press because his name's Presley, but also the guy squatted over 650 pounds at Georgia Tech. He's a monster in the weight room. Anyways, he said, looking forward to inside linebacker and punter because our special teams should be the most talented they've had. Michael Beck did write that article for Behind the Steel Curtain a few days ago. They are going to have a lot of talent. Inside linebacker, though, I'm curious, is there really even a battle there? I mean, you're going to have Vince Williams in situations. You're going to have Robert Spillane. Devin Bush, obviously, is coming back. I mean,
not that it would be a battle, but it's Buddy Johnson, right? Is it Johnson last name? The linebacker they drafted?
Buddy Johnson, yes.
Yes. This might be your only chance to see him on the field as an inside linebacker unless there's a bunch of injuries, So maybe he'll play well enough that they'll work him in, but it could also be what would be all really good for Buddy Johnson. He's going to be a special teams guy. I see him being active on game day as a special teams guy if he shows that he's capable of that. But he might get the Lustin Jane treatment of no defensive snaps as a rookie.
And that's
what I'm saying? Which is fine, which is good news, which means the Steelers aren't having to call on him. But I am curious to see what he can bring.
Old Lustin Jane.
Yeah.
And my buddy Halik Mooker. If anyone doesn't understand the whole Malik Hooker joke, you got to go back and listen to my Wednesday podcast.
Your Wednesday, let's ride. Yep.
All right, here we go. Rod Young has a question. He says, my computer's going slow. Do you think that the Steelers defensive backs can cover the Bengals wide receivers? If the front seven doesn't dominate, it might be 2 L's on our record. Okay. They do have a lot of talented wide receivers.
You want to crown them? Crown them.
They are who we thought they were.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. Cincinnati doesn't really scare me right now. They still don't have a great offensive line to protect Joe Burrow.
Yeah.
They could
That's
have.
what I was going to say. You say if the front seven doesn't get the job done, you might be able to get it done with 4 of them. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. They could have gotten a really good offensive line.
Yeah.
And they didn't get him. They let him
But
go.
instead, they wanted to hype up these wide receivers, and we'll see how it plays out. Maybe he'll be a fantastic wide receiver. Maybe, I don't know.
I'll say this: Tyler Boyd is a player I would love to see in black and gold.
Yeah,
it will never happen. But I know he went to Pitt. But boy, I love that guy's game. I love that guy's game. If Juju Smith-Schuster were to leave, and most are expecting him to do that, and they could somehow get a Tyler Boyd type, boy, you wouldn't miss a thing. He's great. Here we go. Dennis asks, will Ben be calling plays like in the past? In my opinion, unless it's a 4-minute or 2-minute drill, I don't think so. Dave, what do you think?
I'm going to give a Dave answer. He's not going to be calling plays, but it's not like he's not going to. There's a lot of times in the NFL, they send in 2 or even 3 plays, and then you're actually deciding what you're running out of that formation based on reading the defense pre-snap. So it's not that he's not going to have a decision in what's going on with these things, but it's not like you say, unless it's in a 2 or 4-minute drill where he's completely, where he's pointing to the guys and putting them where he wants and then doing what he wants to do. If you're, let's just say this, if they're not going no huddle, if they're huddling up, I see that it's a play or plays coming in, and then they make that call from the line of scrimmage. That's just what I think.
No, I agree with you 100%. Felicia, she puts this comment and she says, no, Presley is big 6. If you ever play dominoes, when you get big 6, you slap it down like take this, and she put some emojis in. I don't know much about dominoes. I never played dominoes. I've never learned how to play the game. What is Presley Harvin's number?
Is that what it is? Is it 6? I can let you know here real quick.
Did he take Duck Hodges' number?
I was thinking he did.
Then that would be a good one. Big 6 would be good. Someone also calls him Thick Kick.
Yeah, Thick Kick. I heard. I remember someone saying that before. Oh, shoot. They don't have it there. I'll have to look somewhere else.
All right. We'll go get to the next question here. While looking that up. Andrew, who does tremendous work for the website, by the way. Thank you very much. If you ever want to read some of his, he's doing quarterback breakdowns for the 2022 NFL draft class. And we've been running those weekly. So make sure you check those out. But he asked, what is it, Dave? 6?
It's 6.
Big 6. Big 6. Maybe Felicia found something there. All right. And he is big, 260 pounds. If Haskins develops into a reliable backup, would you consider trading Rudolph if you can get a day 2 pick in return? Do you really think they could get a day 2 pick for Mason Rudolph? See, that's my first reaction is, do you really think that you would get a second or a third round pick for Mason Rudolph? Not would I do it, but would I even get that?
I don't think you get a second. I don't think a third's out of the realm of possibility because you got a fit for Josh Dobbs.
Right.
So if you were to say right now what I think he would get, my guess would be a fourth. But so you're on the verge of that. And I don't know that I'd do it for a fourth because it's not like you're going to get a viable backup quarterback in the fourth round. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. People treat draft picks like they're so golden. Like, oh, wow, you could get a third for that. I mean, third round picks aren't guarantees. Fourth round picks definitely aren't guarantees. I mean, especially if you're thinking about a quarterback. So yeah, maybe they could, but I someone offers them a 1, I think I might take it.
Julio Jones didn't even garner a 1.
I know. So I know.
And I hate how every time a big name player gets traded, my first thought every time is what the Steelers got for Antonio Brown.
Mm-hmm.
Like I see Julio Jones got a second round pick and some change. And I was like, my gosh, the Steelers had Antonio Brown. Yeah. Antonio Brown was the best wide receiver in the game. People say Julio Jones, nonsense. He was the most dominant wide receiver in the game when he was in Pittsburgh in his prime. Anyways. All right.
And the Raiders still got fleeced on that trade.
3rd and 5th. They turned one of those pick turned into Deontay Johnson, right? The 3rd round pick.
Yep.
In the 5th, I know you know it. Who was it?
Zach Gentry.
Oh, great.
Yep.
What a dud. Okay. And yeah. Okay.
That's funny. You got so little value for him and you still completely won that trade.
They didn't even see him play a snap.
Mm-hmm.
Gosh. Boy, good for the Steelers, I guess. Anyways. All right. Do you have trivia tonight?
I do. But see, remember Deontay Johnson, I've done this before. Deontay Johnson ended up with the Steelers thanks to Santonio Holmes. Because it was the 5th round pick that the Steelers got for Santonio Holmes for the Jets that they traded to Arizona, who picked John Skelton. And in return, the Steelers got their 6th round pick and Bryant McFadden back. And that 6th round pick turned into Antonio Brown, who then, when they traded him, they got Deontay Johnson. You're welcome.
What a wonderful world. Okay.
Yes. I do have trivia. I did this trivia based on what ended up being my stat geek, not this week, but the week before. This was my trivia last week. I had it all ready to go. So I was going to do it again. And then I'm like, well, I don't have Brian to answer this tonight. I just got Jeff. But then I realized I kind of asked part of this question before. So this might not be terrible. Okay. If you can recall. And that was when I was looking back at Steelers 3rd round draft picks, how many of them started in week 1 and continued starting for the season? Do you remember how far I had to go back?
It was in the 80s, wasn't it? Or is it further back?
It was 1953. Was the last time a third round. That was the last time a 3rd round draft pick started every game as a rookie. That was the last one. Then there was some other ones in there that you could say was pretty much close enough, but still. Going back to the merger, the Pittsburgh Steelers have had 217 rookies start at least one game. How many rookies started every game their rookie year since 1970?
How many rookies started every game?
Every game since 1970. And then remember, they have to be credited with the start.
Yeah,
for example,
that automatically
Craig Colquitt in 1978, no starts because he's a punter. You know what I mean?
Oh gosh, this stupid caveat. Okay, 271,
217.
17, whatever. It's late.
know.
I'll go with 5.
You're not that far off. It's 7.
Oh,
7. 7 players have, and see that this is the next part was going to be the fun part with Brian, but you still might do all right. I'm going to give you the year. See if you can tell me the player. You ready?
Yep.
2010.
The player that started every
The
game.
rookie that started every game.
Marquise Pouncey.
Marquise Pouncey. 2001.
Rookie in 2001.
Come on, man. Get out your
Kendrell
jersey.
Bell.
Yeah, it is Kendrell Bell.
Okay, got that one.
Okay. Then the next one before that one was 1992.
Nah, you're going to lose me here. See, I wasn't. I was.
I know you
was 9.
You were too young. You ready?
Yeah.
It was 8th round draft pick Darren Perry.
Oh yeah, they're number 39.
Yep. So then here you go. So from 1992 to go back before that, you had to go back to 1978. 1st round pick cornerback Ron Johnson. Okay. You better get this one. Because that was the last one where it was 16 games. The last 3 on the list, it was 14 games. How about 1974?
74?
Yes. So that was their famous draft.
Right.
But who out of those players do you think would have started every game as a rookie?
Was it Swan?
It was not Swan.
No.
And it was not Stallworth.
Lambert?
That would be Jack Lambert. He started
Okay.
every game. Their 2nd round pick, 46th overall. Then the last 2, there was one from 1971, but it was their 4th round pick, Dwight White. And 1970, it wasn't Terry Bradshaw. No, it wasn't Mel Blount. It was 2nd round draft pick, wide receiver Ron Shanklin.
Oh,
started every game as a rookie. So, and it's funny because earlier tonight in the live chat, right before we went through the break, someone said a comment because I was talking about Mason Rudolph being a 3rd round pick. What if he was the first? They said Terry Bradshaw wasn't a 1st round pick.
First overall.
Yeah, 1st overall. And remember, Bradshaw was not good his first 2 years.
No,
he was 3-5 in 8 games as a rookie, and 5-8 in 13 starts.
Funny story. I've talked about this individual before.
Mm-hmm.
There's a guy I worked with, he was a PE teacher. He actually went to Penn State. He was a starting running back for Penn State. He was on Joe Paterno's first ever team at Penn State. He was the MVP of the Orange Bowl. Like, he was a legitimate player. He was a pallbearer at Joe Paterno's funeral. That's how close he was to the Paterno family. He was drafted by the Steelers in 1969, same year as Joe Green. And he talked about his 2nd year when they drafted Terry Bradshaw. He said, I've never seen a guy have so little touch on a football in my life. They were doing these drills where it was just a little, up, plant your foot, out route. And the tight ends and running backs were doing these drills. He said he would throw the ball as hard as he could every single time. And I forget the tight end at the time who took the ball one time and threw it back at him and told him to knock it off. Like, what are you doing? He said he was trying to break your hands. He had some great stories, by the way, about the Steelers and Chuck Noll's first 2 seasons. He blew out his knee and had to go play in Canada. But great. Yeah, some good, really cool stories to hear from him.
Jeff, but you got to look at these numbers for Bradshaw in 1970.
Oh, they're awful.
He was 83 of 218. That's a 38.1 completion percentage. Listen to this. He had 6 touchdowns to 24 interceptions.
Yeah.
It wasn't a 4-1. It was a 1-4.
Chuck Noll hated him.
Yeah. And to tell, and here's
he was just looking for a reason to bench him.
If he was a 3rd round draft pick, would he have made it into season 2? No. Probably not. But 1st round and 1st overall, you give the guy a little bit of time.
That's good.
That was my point with the whole notion of
that's a good point. Way to bring it full circle.
Yeah.
We had let's hear what he had as sole $5. Thank you very much. He said, I do want to see more of Rudolph's Tech Mobile floating bombs. That's a great way of describing his passes last season in week 17. They were a lot like Tecmo Bowl, the first Tecmo Bowl, not Super Tecmo Bowl. I felt like when Super Tecmo Bowl came out, that's when you had all the NFL teams, your playbook expanded from 4 plays to 8. The quarterbacks had a little bit more zip on the ball, but this is a great description. Thank you very much for the tip, by the way. All right. Did you listen to the Steelers preview last week, Dave?
I did.
I was going to ask you the trivia.
Go ahead. I mean, because I don't remember what it was.
Well, I asked Brian 2 questions, and he got them both right. One of them was earlier, and it had to do with the Mighty Ducks. Are you familiar?
Oh,
with
yeah.
the Mighty
Because
Ducks?
I remember you guys were talking. Was it Kenny? Is it Kenny Wu, or is that the name?
He's a
Woo, Kenny Wu.
Woo, Kenny Wu. That's
Kenny
right.
Wu. Yeah.
And then how much did Arthur Rooney spend to buy the Steelers?
I remember you asking that question. I remember what the answer is. My guess, because I was mowing grass, listening to it. Got the headphones inside the noise canceling headphones, and I'm listening. I'm like, my guess was going to be $6,000, and then Brian did 2,500, and that was the right answer.
That's the right answer.
Yeah,
and now it's worth $3 billion.
Now I was really close on that one. My guess was 2.5 billion.
Well, it's crazy because I remember just a few years ago, Dallas and Washington were the only 2 teams in the NFL that were worth over $1 billion. And now it's just gone, a lot.
Most of them.
Crazy.
Yeah.
All right, let's do some final thoughts here before we call it a show. Dave, go ahead.
Oh, my goodness. I usually have 5 minutes to think of it while Brian's giving this. Okay, final thoughts. I do really miss Brian Anthony Davis tonight. And I tell you what, I really missed last week. I was very disappointed that I couldn't be on the show. It was my son's 10th birthday. His special 10th birthday trip was to actually go ride in Uncle Rich's fishing boat to go fishing. So we were out on a lake fishing with Big Brosco, who is quite the fisherman. And it's funny. They're like, well, how'd you do? I'm like, I was mainly just hanging out and watching my son have fun. But unfortunately, I couldn't get back in time for the show. Really missed my time with you guys. It just didn't seem like my week was complete without the Steelers preview. And even this week, it doesn't seem totally complete without one Brian Anthony Davis. We miss you, bud. Hopefully we'll get you back soon. But this talk of the preseason and the talk of the quarterbacks and everything else, just so much, it goes to show how last year we were just so happy to have football at all. This year, the goal is normal football. Get back to that preseason. Get back to, you're not having to check the reports every morning to see if there's an outbreak or something to where games are going to get rescheduled like they were and things of that nature. Now, if that's what it has to come to again in order to have football, we get it. We'll live with it. But if we could even get back to more normal football, having the preseason, being in Latrobe, fans in the stadium, I can't wait to get to the games I'm going to. That's what I think is going to make 2021 just extra special, regardless of how the Steelers start off the season. But you know what? They're going to start off all right. They'll be okay. What is it? What did I do?
No, Steven puts in he said, fact or fiction, Jeff shoots a 77 is next time. He's talking about golf.
Yeah.
I've talked about golf on my Let's Ride podcast. I am going to try to play this weekend. I do want to play 18 holes. See, I play with my kids, and they don't typically handle 18 holes. That's a long time for them. So normally just play 9.
I only do 9 with my son as well.
So I'd like to play 18. If I can shoot a 77 on my home course, which is it's a tough golf course. If I shoot a 77, you'll hear me talking about it. We'll put it that way. Last time I played was back in Wheeling, West Virginia, my hometown. I went home over Memorial Day weekend. I played with my daddy as a standing tee time at 7 a.m. And it was such a beautiful day, a high of 43 degrees. There was 43 degrees. There was a light mist, and it was windy. Beautiful golfing conditions. I'm joking. It was miserable. Shot an 81 with 3 double bogeys. I wasn't too upset. If you can shoot 81 with 3 doubles, I'm like, okay, I did have some good shots in me. Anyway.
If I just shoot a double bogey on every hole, I'd be ecstatic. Seriously, that's my goal. Double bogey. I get that. Oh, if I just bogey it, that's a win. That's a major win.
There you go. We don't play the same golf courses.
No, we don't.
77,
than
Steven.
$20 to golf. What are you talking about? I don't do that.
77 is my goal. All right. That's not my low round is I've shot under par before in my life. I shot 69 on the day after Thanksgiving a couple years ago, actually. All right. So no, I don't use a lacrosse stick to putt. Goodness gracious. Get out of here, you all bums. All right. So 77. That's my goal for the next time out. Thank you, Steven. All right. That's my final thought for the night. Make sure you check us out on behindthesteelcurtain.com, wherever you get your podcast. Subscribe. I really hope that all the people that are watching live on Facebook or YouTube do check out our morning shows. That's My Let's Ride every Monday, Wednesday, Friday. That's Dave Stat Geek on Thursday. That's also the live mic with Michael Beck on Tuesdays. They're totally different, but they're also really, really good. All of them. So check them out wherever you get your podcasts. All right, Dave, why don't you send us out?
Hey.
There it is. We'll see you next week. Take it easy.